So another way of putting a lot of things I've said today is that people who enforcement, people who work in law, people who work in education, people who work in transit, whatever you may have learned to think about them or prefer to think about them, they all work as different economic classes and professions are all meant to work in a cult. When it is required, in this capacity, if you would call it a resort to the cultic, they operate in a cult. And in a sense, they are occulted. So inhibitions are lowered when compared to the standard behavior of a decent human being. You can create that for yourself, or you might think that is. Victims often have a better idea than what you do if you haven't been victimized by anything before, or you don't think you have, or haven't sustained a voice, even begin to learn that you might have, much less hear other people out who have been victimized. And so basically, due to cult psychology, no one's prepared to deal with anyone who's been victimized. Be particularly aware that humans function and need to function with individual groups to result to violent cultic behavior. And so people who work in various professions are meant and trained and grown to be a cult. A cult, a cult, a cult. And they give off that energy. So when I see the local buses, it's a bad energy. I come out here and I feel bad energy resonating out of my blood. I go past a health food store and I get a bad energy. I see a police car and I get a bad energy. Not because they're really directing it at you, but it's coming off of them in all directions. It is certainly for you. Because people who will have occasion to feel that, and have maybe even more occasion to have reason to feel that way, are exactly what that cult wants in terms of its food. Right? This is the demonic level of human beings. This is how humans, we say, can get eaten by the system. They get eaten up. And very smart young people have told me that they know that the system is meant to eat up poor people. It's meant to eat you up. Law enforcement is an intake valve to incarcerate, to humiliate, to break through your social boundaries, hands on you, and to treat you like prey. All the while, I'm convinced that they're functioning on behalf of the righteousness and goodness of the local and national population, just like a soldier. Right? And that's what these people do. So they give off a bad energy. Right? That's a bad energy. So the river could still get a bit lower. Let's see the chemtrails up there. Right? I'm trying to cover up the sun. You got beautiful sunlight. Prison bars on the sun, is it? Okay? That's what they're trying to imprison, the sun. The sun. So a lot of these people live here. They become like vampires. They have a bad energy. And if you feel that, you need to bolster your confidence in your own goodness. Because every other woman in this entire God-forsaken area, or God-blessed, either way, it's the same thing, thinks they're upstanding human beings. They think they are paragons. They've been taught since they were little girls that they are paragons. They tend to gravitate towards service industries and working with children and people and elderly. But they're not paragons. They're good at being members of cults where everyone is convinced that they're paragons no matter what they do. And the people they deal with don't have a voice to the contrary. How can anyone be ethical when the people you're touching and teaching and totaling and toting and trafficking in are speak up against you? What kind of environment is that? So you hear that, you see that. That's why they use prison buses to take children to school. Being prisoners, right? Your parents' car to school, you're trapped in there. What an awful journey. My mom used to take me job I hate, and she dropped me off And I hated it. He was a farmer. He hated me, John Federer. He hated my guts. Right? He didn't want anything to do with me. I wasn't the same as my brother. My older brother, no problem. Right? He's unfortunately quite a natural sociopath. He really took losing really hard as a child because you don't get your parents long enough, and it makes him crazy. Right? Same thing happened to his friends. Right? They just become crazy. Right? My brother has never had a lot of time with his mom. My mom, I live with. My sister, my little brother, they've never really gotten to know her as a human being. Oh, it's so nice to walk down this road and not feel intense fear as I stopped. Don't exactly know what time it is. Look, you're there. I was going shopping. He's actually a decent human being. There's son too early. Heart attack in his bed. Why? Why? Where's his father? Okay. The earth is a depressing, demoralizing place for people. And it's the component of all in all professions. Desperation to compensate for the loss of or the sacrifice of the father and the mother and the self. By all these communities, which are basically cults for the banking system and the education, always teach service and sacrifice for the greater good. That's agreed. It's all communism, fascism, capitalism. It's all cults. It's cults. You don't really have to do that. And you can still do something in life without becoming such a degraded peon. Too long. And it's part of the background radiation. Women always simply assault me, not my action. Just extremely aggressive. Sit down in the forest for a few minutes. And then first of all, this. Left knees and up. And then sit down. Warm up. Yeah, so nothing and no one in these cults wants to hear what you think about the world, what you think about the professions that isn't completely censored perfection, so they can feel as wonderful they need every day of their God forsaken lives.
Like if you put like a laminate or something in there, it would be beautiful. But oh, is it?
the woman is having an orgasm talking about laminate flooring. She's publicly orgasming over laminate flooring. It's weird. It's wood floors, we just sand it. It's gonna be so beautiful. It's like exaggerated tones. Anyway. Yeah, so 2 years ago, actually 3 years as the calendar goes good, 3+ years, I started a bus job, and $2.50 wasn't enough to get a ride home. I had to pay with a pound of my flesh as well. And man, if it is a study in the scathing and violent power of a female voice who is a trained predator and a member of the professional cult, a bus to the local bus cult, essentially. Who, if you think about it, sit almost like the local magistrate above. This is where the stupidest, fucking, ugliest fucking people in Oceanside anywhere get to kind of sit and preside over the relative goodness and badness of the common folk around them. You should see these women boarding a man who just bought a chainsaw or was taking it somewhere to pawn it for some money to live off of. Wouldn't let him on the bus because they don't allow gas-powered devices, even if it has no gas in it. Okay, I mean, it could be a reasonable policy, right? And he's like, oh, okay. So he leaves after talking. He's like, he just doesn't understand this. And it's all safe, and it's not like he's going to start it on the bus, right? But considering what these bus drivers do to people, having a gas-powered machine on the bus would be like the least of your worries. But in any case, she gets on the horn immediately and says, oh, it's like, there's a danger that someone's going to let him on. What would that matter? He's going to try again, okay? Just because he was trying to defend himself a little bit, and she's on the horn talking about him like she's a fucking police officer, like he's done something wrong. This man who can't afford more than a bus ride to the local town might try to do something bad that offends our principles. Because, of course, the papers are filled with cases where people bring devices onto buses and start them up and start hacking people up, you know. It's like, considering all the knives and guns, considering that people routinely, children in the morning, would get up, go to the back of the bus, and open a can of beer. But the driver didn't have any problem with that, right? Open alcohol containers on the back of the bus at 8 in the morning. Or being molested or sexually assaulted by women, younger women often. No problem there. So, you know, the craziest uneducated people who sit like magistrates over the rest of the world, banging out, you know, deciding who to be courteous to and who not to be, who to favor with a smile and who not. You know, you're simply standing the wrong way, and they start using the mechanism to open and close the doors to voice their consternation about you as a human being. It's absolutely fucking amazing, the resort to nonverbal, violent, or belligerent language that these fucking retards use from their perch on high, where they can never be safe enough from you, not even with plexiglass and masks. You know? But if they find out where you live, as they did in my case, and they find out your phone number, fucking, they can stalk you for years. And they can use the police to help them do it. Right? It's amazing. It's also the other world. And that's what these people, that's who they are in the world. That's what they do on the world stage. Right? I don't use these things. I'm not going to use a service where, I mean, taxi service is about a business if they behave the way they do. You know? All right. Turn on your chainsaw. That's a real concern for me. Right? Females are so bad that I had to worry about being by a fat, handicapped older woman with a walker. Because she me in a bus full of children let out from school, convinced that I wanted what she was sitting in. And she couldn't contain herself. Right? Because she was queen of the world. right? My foot was this. My body was in the wrong place. Everything was wrong about me. You think the bus driver would do anything about it? No. But if you have a chainsaw, hey, let's be serious about this. Right? Because it's a cult. They're not there to really keep any kind of peace. They've been charged with various compulsions and imperatives, which they will neither ever tell you, nor explain, nor rationalize, and you can't possibly prepare for them. So you go to a bus in the Oceanside area, you don't know how the fuck you're going to be treated. It's a mystery. Right? On any given day when I would go to a bus stop, what the fuck these motherfuckers would find wrong with me, or how I was standing, just like the handicapped older woman, or what I was wearing, or how I looked, right? Standing perfectly still at a bus with no one else around, it wasn't good enough for them, right? Can you imagine what these people have been trained to be like, and that this behavior is condoned by them? And you find this out, right? Because you look, because you take an interest in human beings, and like, lo and behold, you're guilty of being fucking naive about the world, right? Because these local, regional fucking cunt weevils, right? This is who they are, man. This is the height of their lives. Now, compare this, by the way, to drivers in the local area who are completely professional, who are usually dark-skinned and male, right? Whenever I saw someone misusing their authority in the public, white, male, female, every time. You don't see the dark people doing this. You don't see the dark people doing this. Why don't you see the dark people doing this? Because somehow their family and their background has allowed them to learn how to be a fucking human being. Allowed them to distinguish themselves at a job that other white male and female contemporaries are unable to do or to find any satisfaction in doing without being able to mete out unprovoked violence onto poor people and unsuspecting customers on buses that are usually already empty. And they'll fucking drive by you if you're not standing close enough to a bus stop. They'll drive by you when you stop, okay? They're not interested in picking people up, right? That's not even part of the world, right? Or they'll drive by the bus stop, and then yell at children and women for being at the bus stop because they hate to stop. They'll yell at customers who ask them to stop in places with bus stops that they just don't want to stop in that day. And they'll lecture them about why they shouldn't have to do that. That's how fucking mongrel these people have become. This is who they are. Imagine what their families are like, right? These people are demented. They're absolutely demented, right? But they live in a cult. This demented behavior goes unchecked. Demented. I think on the local bus fleet, every year I'd put a dozen buses whose windows were loose. And the bus driver, the hapless bus driver, get up like, oh, that's no big deal. And he just fucking put it back in again. Right? Now look at their mechanics. Now you start to see a range of incompetence to the operators, the supervisors, and the drivers, most of whom are white. Think about it. Okay. This incompetence. Does it come from the company? Does it come from the top? What is it? Right? They certainly don't have any customers around here. Right? Change the bus schedule. I don't think they even print schedules anymore. They didn't tell people. They just stopped publishing it. And this behavior that could go beneath the radar, and you see it once, you see it here. But what do I do? Also, after a day like today, I'm observant. Let's go. It is scary talking about it. It's scary to think of what I've seen. Right? That people delivering essential services, so poorly trained, so poorly behaved, so poorly supervised, and so potentially dangerous, so uninhibited in the unprovoked violence which they are often inclined to mete out to unsuspecting passengers, victims, right? That you might have never encountered before in your life until you came to the Oceanside area. Because you have to know their job better than they do. Think about their job, they can take it on you at any time. They'll do this in front of witnesses. I routinely see particular types of drivers who I can identify who training at various stages off up to a half a mile away from their indicated stop. Places where I've stopped hundreds of times and have never had any trouble ringing the bell and stopping, right? And then along these same routes, people are there have to stop there, and other drivers will complain about having to stop there. You know, it's incredible. It's like these children are in distress. I've seen them on the phone with their mom or dad. The mom or dad is telling them it's probably their, because the people trust bus drivers. These people are behaving like criminals. They don't think a bus driver, why would a bus driver just let you off a half mile away? Well, maybe they pulled the time at the wrong time. Maybe they just feel like it. They just got a sadistic streak. One woman started running her bus into children because she felt like it one day. And she was completely unrepentant. She was like, look at them crossing in front of me. They're practically asking for it, right? This is the type of people that they're hiring. I'll never forget the look on that man's face the last time I saw one of these bus drivers. A pretty square dude. I don't think he really hurts people. But I was like, what does he think's going on around him? The supervisor parked over here. Police car with his light. I don't know what's going on. I'm not sure if it's for me or for somebody else. I'm the only one. And he parks nose in this mall really easy. Hi, how you doing?
Pretty good. Yourself?
Good, great. I'm glad to thank you.
Yeah, so am I.
Yeah. He's parked nose in, so I can't go out the back door. Funnels me to the front of the door, and I just cross the road and sit down and wait for the bus. Nothing happens. All of a sudden, the lights go back on, and the driver goes away. It's a show me energy. We're concerned about you. We're not concerned about our drivers. We're not concerned about how we treat the public. We're people like you who see how we treat the public. There's a blue line here, right? We don't have to answer to this level. You're the pervert for asking us to, right? You've breached that subterfuge, that suspension of disbelief that people who take the bus live in. And you look at the people on the bus, and you can kind of see how this behavior has drifted, because virtually no one takes it, except people who probably expect or accept any. They don't even know it's abuse. They got other things to do in their lives, right? They've got worse problems than being left standing in the rain by a bus driver who doesn't want to pick them up, because that's what they don't feel like it. They don't even look at you. Okay? You're an animal. You're hideous. Right? You're a female. You're native. You're a child. I stood at a bus stop, plain as day, fully marked. There's a shop, and next to the most major shop in a small township with, easiest bus. And this male bus driver drives by. There's 4 children and me. We're all standing there in broad daylight, coming up to the curb, right? Blows by, doesn't even look at us. It's the last bus of the day. right? They're not concerned about that. They have no situation. They have no real sense of service. He's just putting in his hours. Those children had to go home with a stranger. Just happened to be me, right? I took them home. They lived miles and miles away, right? And you talk to usually the white female. Oh, okay. We'll do something about that. Right. And I'm imitating them because they can seem very nice. And there's no, right? They don't lose any sleep that night. It's like 3 or 4 children here at night whose parents depended on them getting a ride home on the bus and had no alternate means and no phones with them. They would have had to walk miles and miles and miles to get home. It could have taken them hours. What would have happened to them? I posed this to the assistant. I didn't tell them that I'd actually seen it. Right? Who are they going to end up going home with? Right? You got a bus. It's empty. It's going home from a sleepy hollow over town after the bus drivers had 15 to 20 minutes to relax and use lunch. Nothing. In a beautiful little park-like setting. Now he's heading out in the first major stop before he has to make a turn and head down the highway home. He doesn't even turn his head to see who's there. And there's a group of people, mostly children, waiting for him. Nothing. No eye contact. Nothing. You're waving. Nothing. That man did not done. He wasn't a bus driver. He was just some demon driving a bus. Right? Danger, danger. And these little things tell you something. And you start complaining and it starts adding up to more because the demonic, if not the conscious mind of people, it knows where people like me are. Start making more complaints. There's a lot of things I don't complain about. There was a young female I knew who was a new bus driver. I had seen her running stop signs all the way home one day. So I go to complain. I'm on her bus one day again, because you don't see them all the time. But I noticed that every time she was driving, I would notice her do something cruel or sadistic to human beings. As she's driving along the highway, where there's most, by the way, it's a major bus route. And there's an old man with a walker just getting off the seat at the bus stop, but not fast enough. She doesn't even turn her head. She doesn't put in the brakes. And he stands there, gets his walker ready, and she blows by. She doesn't even look in the rearview mirror. It does. She wants to make her quota. She wants to make her time. Right? He can get the next one maybe. I don't know. I don't know what's going on. And this goes by in a flash and you want to go on about your day. But if there was a supervisor, she would stop. You have to ask yourself. If there was 3 policemen at the bus waiting for the bus, if she needed help and was in distress, and someone was there to help her, would she have stopped? Which she, right? It's like, and you have this cognitive dissonance, like bus driver. Why is the bus? And you start to learn as you investigate the statistical branch of BC Transit, which is a private corporation essentially, that these types of things are prevalent. And where you see these, there are bigger things going on. Right? That person's still driving a bus. These people don't like to stop at bus stops. It's basically their prerogative. At all times, whether you're at a bus stop or not, whether they're going to stop for you. You know, some are really good, but when you find the ones that aren't, how is that possible? How is that possible to even happen? Right? This guy needs a ride. Maybe he doesn't. Maybe he's just sitting there. Does she know that for sure? He's obviously anticipating her because he's starting to get up, right? Is it just the moment he chose to walk home? Or is he just sort of playing off the humiliation over by bus by saying, I'll try to get another day, because he's philosophical. Sometimes you get him, sometimes you don't. Today this advisor said, because you're old, I don't give a fuck about you. Right? I missed you, I didn't see you, I didn't think you needed a ride. No one complains, I don't. What's the point? Right? Is it going to happen? This person doesn't stop for passengers at bus stops when she doesn't think she needs to. Right? She is an aggressive human being. I've seen the way she drives. She loves to make as good a time as possible. She's conscientious, just not about people. And I've seen women who look just like her, who can be perfectly sadistic. They have no inhibitions about treating men or people in public in a completely sadistic, even older men. Same physical profile. In fact, the women in their service are the worst. One woman, one Canadian, cold Canadian day in January, was the first blessed day. The entire trip, she wouldn't turn on the heat. Until multiple passengers asked her to. Why not? If you were giving someone a ride in your car, you know, turn on those seats, but not her. It's like they don't even pay attention to people. They don't care. Like, you're a driver. You're a professional driver. You're driving people who are cold on a cold bus. They're paying you the fare. It does have to be. Do we have to write it on your forehead? Right? For years and years and years, they have something called poetry on the bus. Remember, drivers spent a lot of time eating their lunch in their vehicle. They should be cleaning the vehicle. They should be spending time in it at some point, making sure there aren't needles on the seats and stuff. And I made a mistake. Like I said, every question I ever asked them always had no answer, incompetent answer, belligerence, or some of all the above. And I said, hey, I like the fact that you have poetry. And he's like, what poetry? And I walk away. What poetry? Right? They can't even carry on a simple conversation with you. They're like lower mammals, right? I've met them when they're off duty. They're like lower mammals. They are. They live in a different dimension. They're not exactly mentally ill, but they're not exactly human anymore. One of the creatures walked by a bus stop and the door was open, and these two pairs of eyes looked at me while she was hunched down, and she literally looked like someone had dug her out of a grave, and they had exhumed her. That's what she looked like. Just this fat, ugly, grotesque beast sitting in the seat. And I'm like, I don't know what's worse, the people driving them